mbokk ñu ngi leen di nuyu beneen yoon fii ci Africa TV ñëwaat mbégte dellusiwaat tey ci suba sale comme ni ñu koy defee saa su ne bu waxtu bi jotee tey di àllarba yem ak fukki fan ak ñaar ci weeri mai 2021 xam ngeen ne tey moo nekk di midweek edition mooy edition bu of course buy ñëw ci diggante bi ci biir week bi ci noonu ñu amaat mbégte lool kon ni ñoo defee saa su ne ñu ziar leen nag bu baax fu ngeen mënta nekk ci biir réew mi ba ci biti réew di leen jaal jëfalaat ci safo bi waaye ci kolte bi ci ni ngeen di taamoo di ànd ak ñun saa su ne bu waxtu bi jotee démb ba ñu déggoon nañ ne nañ fi newaat incha allah bu fekkee ne du korité te gis ngeen ne tey du korité ci Gambia foog ñu matali tey fanweeri fan ci weeri koor gi ñu sant yàlla bu baax di leen baalu ak beneen yoon di baalu ñëpp ak xam naa ne ci kanam tuuti nañ ci xuus waaye tamit gannaaw nuyoo bi xam ngeen ne nañ leen digtal suñu ay xibaar waaye tamit ñu dalal si gan ñu waxtaan tolluwaay réew mi comme ni ñu koy defee saa su ne waaye tamit léegu-léeg suñu ndaw ñu nekk ci biti ñu jokkoo ak ñoom te tey loolu la ñuy dooree jotaay bi suñ kenn suñu ndaw yi mu ngi ci biti léegi-léegi nañ ñëw jokkoo ak moom ci line bi. Well, viewers, welcome to the midweek edition of the Good Morning Africa program live on Africa TV. Wherever you are, we are very much happy to welcome you back again to the Wednesday's edition. And of course, it's Wednesday. It's 12th of May, 12th of May 2021. So wherever you are around the world, we say good morning and thank you for joining us. And we expect to have a very, very, very interesting and highly informative edition this afternoon. We are almost, of course, coming to the end of Ramadan. It's the 30th, today, of course, the 30th day of Ramadan. So that will be the final day as we get to Korite. So thank you again. And we will bring your studio stories, and we have some very interesting ones to do. But first, we want to start with, of course, as you know, with our team outside. Our coverage team is outside. Today, we want to start with that before we get into the studio stories. And of course, later on, welcome our guests so we can discuss on matters happening in the country, as always we do. So thank you again. kon ni ma ko waxee léegi-léegi gannaaw bu ñu leen nuyoo gërëmaat leen bu baax dañoo dem ci biti jokkoo ak suñ team bi ñu ngi ci biti ñu dem fale ci Lamin Kerewan bu ma ko tuddee xam ngeen ne dafa am lu doy waar lu xewati ci réew mi te foofu la xewee li ko waral am na benn soxna ki nga xamante ne mu ngi tudd Mariam Jaw moom lañ dal di wax ne dafa am ku ko rey wala sax génn na àdduna ci foofu ci Lamin Kerewan léegi nag pour ñu dem foofu waxtaan ak suñu ndaw ñu xam naka lañ fa nekkee ak naka la mbir yi demee ñu wax ne ki nga xamante ne mooy Modou Mohamed Lang mu ngi ci line bi mon ña ñu ngi lay nuyu ci suba si la waaye tamit am mbégte lool am la ci line bi pour ñu waxtaanee xew-xew bu doy waar bi nga xamante ne xew na foofu ci Lamin Kerewan gannaaw bu ñu la nuyoo nga wax ñu naka ngeen fekkee foofu xew-xew bi ak ñu fa nekk gannaaw bi nga xamante ne yegg ngeen foofu tey ci suba.
jërëjëf Saladou ñu ngi lay ñuy seetaan Africa TV jamono yi Morning Africa comme ni ko waxee fi xibaar bu doy waar
aja mu ngi noonu nañ ñëwaat ci moom léegi-léegi ñu jéggalu ci loolu jokkaloo gi dafa xaala dangagum tuuti waaye nañ fexe ñu déggante ak moom pour wax wi leer ñu xam li nga xamante ne lan moo fa xew Mod Ñang bu dee yaa ngi ñoo déggal rek ñu bàyyi la nga continuer Mod Ñang waaw Modou Mohamed Ñang bu dee jokkala ji yomb na rek ñu bàyyi la nga digtal ñu li nga xamante ne mooy xew-xew bi foofu naka la demee ndax ngeen fekkee mbokk yi ak tamit yëf yi num demee kon ni nga ko waxee nekk na xew-xew bu doy waar foofu ci Lamin Kerewan depuis démba ba léegi loolu moo nekk di ñëpp ñu ngi ko waxantoo ci biir dëkk bi te tamit mu nekk li nga xamante ne nekkaat na beneen mbir bi nga xamante ne ñu bari dañ ci am njàqare Mod Ñang bu dee yombaat na rek ñu jox la kàddu gi nga digtal ñu naka ngeen fekkee gaay yi foofu waaw mu ngi noonu ba léegi xam naa ne ñu ngi ci am ay some issues ci jokkaloo gi waaye ñu ba léegi rek fàttali xam naa ne léegi tey ñu fexe rek ñu déggante ak moom incha allah ci nu mu gën a leere tamit ñëpp gis xam tamit naka la yëf yi nekkee foofu waaye tamit lan la li nga xamante ne mooy amaana xew-xew bi nu mu demee ñu yaatal ko bu baax ci jotaay ji tey balaa ñoo xuus ci biir indil leen yeneen xibaar ak tamit yeneen waxtaan comme ni ñu koy defee saa su ne ci jotaay bi kon ni ma ko waxee rek ma dellusiwaat xew-xew bi comme ni ñu bari ci yéen ñu ngi ko yëgee amaana tamit mun na am yenn ci yéen léegi ngeen ko yegg fii ci Africa TV beneen xew-xew bu doy waar benn soxna ku ñu wax ne daal daanaka am na lu ëpp fanweeri at moom moo dal di ñàkk bakkenam ci ni mu ko ñàkkee nag am na ñu wax ne am na ki sabab loolu su ko defee xam ngeen ne loolu bu amee foog ñu jéem a seet mbir mi naka la demee te tamit comme wax la fi mu nekk ni bëgg na ñëw dem suñu team bi moo tax ñu xëy dem fa pour seet li nga xamante ne mooy foofu ci Lamin Kerewan naka la njeewoo ak tamit mbir mi naka la demee surtout jege ñaale ndaw su boobu soxna soos si nga xamante ne moom moo dal di ñàkk bakkenam ci xew-xew boobu foofu ci Lamin Kerewan mu nekk nag lu doy waar comme ni ngeen ko gisee wala sax ni ngeen ko déggee lii nag mu nekk mbir mi nga xamante ne Gambien si ñu bari dañ ci am njàkkare lool ci lii nu moo xewee ci réew mi saa yu nekk daanaka nga dégg li nga xamante ne mooy am na kuñ faat wala am na ki nga xamante ne dee na deyin bi nga xamante ne doyin bu doy waar la léegi li ko waral day mujjee nekk li nga xamante ne mooy luy tiital askan gi la moo tax ñu bugg a ci indi waxtaan waaye tamit dem fi mu xewee ñu bugg a ko déggee ci ñoom ñi nga xamante ne jege nañ ndaw si tamit ay mbokkam ak yu mel noonu ak tamit ñu xam ñoom naka lañ nekk di dundee li nga xamante ne mooy métit bi ak tamit tiis gi nga xamante ne daanu na seen kaw parce que tamit nekk na moment bu métti xam naa ci képp ki nga xamante ne mbokku nga wala jege ñaa ngi la nga ci kii li nga xamante ne mooy ci kii ñàkke bakkanam ci ñàkkin bu doy waar xam naa ne du léegi rek ñu jéem a seet naka la ñoo jokkoowaat ak Modou Mohamed Niang moom mu ñu nekkal foofu ak suñ team bi ci suba si fexe rek ñu indi ci ab leeral tuuti ci xew-xew bi ni mu amee foofu ci Lamin Kerewan kon ni ma ko waxee mu nekkati beneen xew-xew bu doy waar ci réew mi xam ngeen nag jamono bi ñu bari ñu ngi joytu ci wàllu kaaraange ci biir réew mi ak yu mel noonu yooyu yëpp xam naa ci kanam tuuti nañ ci gën a yaatal ci biir waxtaan bi incha allah ñu jéem a seet rek naka la ñu jokkoo ak suñ team bi foofu ñu déggee ci moom ci ñoom ñi nga xamante ne ñoom ñu fa teewal pour yëf yi gën a mun a leer ñu bara xam ngeen ne lii bu amee coow li day bari lool nit ñi ku ne dina ci wax waaye kon niñ ko waxee lii tamit nekkut li nga xamante ne daanaka luy gëj ci réew mi daanaka surtout ci jamono buñ nekk lu gën a bari dañ koy dégg muy xew ci réew mi loolu dina nekk li nga xamante ne mooy li am solo pour ñu dégg ko ci gaay. Well, viewers, we just reminded that you are with the midweek edition of the Good Morning Africa program. Of course, today we want to start, like I said, with our outside coverage team, and they are right out there in Lamin Kerewan. And this is simply because another unfortunate incident happened there, where a lady said to be, of course, over 30 years old, is allegedly killed yesterday. And so that being the case, we felt it is important that we go and talk to the family to know as to what might have led to the incident resulting to her death. So that is what we're trying to find out or get through to, and our team is already on the ground. So in a moment, we'll get to Mod Niang, who is there live at Lamin Kerewan to update us on what is the situation on the ground. Mod Niang dafa mel ni ñu amaat la ci line bi rek ñu kon niñ ko doore woon ñu bëgg a xam bi ngeen fa yekkee naka ngeen fekkee gars yi yëf yi naka la mel foofu.
jërëjëf Amadou comme noo ko waxee rek buñ déggee xibaar bi si leen daal di xëy ñëw fii nga xam ne mooy Lamine Kerewaan waaye ñu bëri itam di wax Mandinari ñu fekk fi xew-xew bu nga xam ne bu doy waar la comme ni ko nit ñi déggee because ndaw lu jigéen boo xam ne ni ñu ngi ko gën a xam si Mariama Diaw mu daal di ñàkk bakkanam si aman bu métti nga xam ne dañ ko fekk si biir néeg wala seen biir kër fu nga xam ne foofu la dëkk daal di faat bakkanam loolu nag mu nekk lu nga xam ne ni lu doy waar la mu nekk lu nga xam ne dam xibaar bu métti la comme ni ko waxee rek dafa nekk lu nga xam ne ni xibaar yi ñi ko faral muy di am si biir réew mi fii te mu faral di gën a bëri si biir réew mi looloo tax nag ñu ñëw fii waaye buñ fi ñëwee tey fekk neen fi dëkkandoor yi ak mbokk yi ak ñi nga xam ne ñooy way jur yi waaye ñu métti lu ko trop bu ko xibaar bu métti la dëkkandoor itam taxaw métti lu ko bu baax a baax mu nekk lu nga xam ne nii métti na Amadou parce que suñ xale bu jigéen bu nga xam ne moo ñàkk ba kanam ndaw la bu ko ni ñu waxee fanweeri at ak juróom-benn si loolu la atami toll kon dafa mel ni koo xam ne ni xalel la te ñàkk ba kanam si anam bu métti fekk la si sa biir kër faat la ba pare daal di dem loolu nekk na lu nga xam ne ni lu doy waar la. Nevo si ñi nga xam ne ñooy dëkkandoor yi waxtaan leen ak ñoom ñu si bëri méttul nañ ko ndax dañ lay wax ne nuñ menoon ak xale boobu noonu. so loolu nekk na lu nga xam métti lu nekk bu baax a baax.
ok wax nga ko nekk na xew-xew bu doy waar te ni nga ko waxee tamit ne lii jamono ji ci réew mi daanaka saa yu nekk nit ñi di ko dégg am na kuñ faat wala am na ki nga xamante ne wax na ne dañ ko rey ak yu mel noonu ci dëkk bi te lii bu xewee nit ñi dañ ci wax lu bëri ci xew-xew bi ak taxawaay bi nga xamante ne kilifa yi war nañ ko mën a taxawee bi ngeen yegsee foofu lan la waa Lamine ak ñi nga xamante ne mooy dëkkandoor yi nekk di wax ci mbir mi.
waaw dëkkandoor yi méttul nañ ko trop xam naa ne nu ñuy def sax am na si ku nga xam ne ni dëkkandooram la te amoon na seen diggante rataxoon na te nekk na ki nga xam ne tam mooy first person bi nga xam ne ni bu incident bi amee moom daal dina ku fi njëkk a agsi loolu moo tax mu ngi nii suma ndeyjoor xam naa nu may def rek daal di ànd ak moom rek di déglu moom ban lan la moo wax si seedeem waa ajaratu naa nga def
maa ngi fi
naa nga tudda
Blanche Jatta
Blanche am nga ñëwal si xew bu nga xam ni am na fi démb
waaw salaamaaleykum di sant di métitlu nag li xew si suñu dëkk bi waaw ci Mandinari waaw kii Maram suma xarit la suma dëkkandoor bu baax la ma sista la sax dinaa wax parce que da fii lañ dëkka mu toxu fii waaye dañ ñëw ñu mel ni ñun ñoo bokk ndey ak baay dama génn sa bàyyee ko xale yi mu téyel ma leen téye bu rafet ma dem ñëw fekkaat ko fi waaw yàlla def na démba si suba dama génn ma indil ko xale yi waaw ma ñëw boori 11 ma fekk ko fi ñun ñëpp ma toog waxtaan ak moom ñu nekk fi mu ngee fompa mu fompa yëpp mu ne ma damaa setal ma ne ko dangaa setal ma ne si laa ko ne ana kii doo xaar ba mu ñëw mu ne ma déedéet xam nga affaire si jege si na ma ne ko xanaa tey doo tooga si suñ waxtaan ñun ñaar mu ne ma déedéet lu yombalaay tooga man sax tey dama xaw a sona ma ne ko ok dangaa noppale ko si laa ko ne ko naaj bi tàng na xaaral Pierre suma doom bi su paree mu ñëw demal la ci fridge bi indil la sa bagage yi parce que teg naa leen fi ba naaj bi tàng na doo mun a tee dem mu ne ma waa baax na man sa ndox rek laa soxla tey tooguma lu bëri parce que lu maa def bëriwut suma biir baay métti sax waaye xam naa mensuration moo maa lifin ma ne ko ok ma ne ko kon xaaral ma demagum ma dem ba toolu diggante pële mu ne ma lan mooy sa Africell number bi sax te musul ma koo laajte ma wax si suma lu xew tey Maram laajte ma Africell waaye ma ne anyway xëy na daf ko soxla rek man tamit loolu laa jàppa ma ne ko waaye suma Qcell baa ngee dox ma dem fekk suma bunta bi lock around 11 bunta bi lock mënuma ko ubbi ma try ba soona ma oo suma doom mi ne ko kaay ubbil ma mu ñëw ñaay duga ma duga nekk fa bee di tooga ma yónni suma jànxa bi ma ne ko demal si biti nga mataate mu ñëw ma ne ko seen nga kii Maram bun mu ne ma maa ngi ko gis mu ngi toog ci perron bi noonu mu duga maa ngi fray di tooga ñu noodatu mu ne ma maa ngi gunge xale bi suma xarit bi mu dem Maram yokkal ko boppam bi léeta bi ma ne ko waa baax na dem leen su ma paree añ dinaa leen oo suma doom bi ñu dugasi ni mu dugasee mu fekk deret ci saal bi mu daw si ba bunta bi ma ne ko lu xew mu ne ma ah man de dugg naa néegi ñoom maram waaye néeg bi yëpp deret la ma ne ko deret ma ne ko déedéet noonu laa dawee xaw ma sax lan laa sol ak lu ma solut xaw ma sax naka laa mel ma dugg si because man niñ téye wante maa moom dañ mel ni sisters seen néeg dama am accès fu nekk ma dugga ma dawee gisuma ko waaye gis naa deret ma ne waa léegi deret mu fi fan la war a nekka maa ko maram ma dugga néegi yaayam ma seet gisuma ko ma dugga néegi rakaam ma seet gisuma ko waaye néega ma ngi tëj ma puus bunta bi néeg baa ngi tëj waaye suma xel ba tey mayut ma pour ma puus bu baax ma ne déedéet comme dafa ma ne dafa setetal te lii dal na ko xëj na dafa daw génn uti ndimbal waaw ma daw si dëkkandoor bii fii la ma dem ma ne ko oncle Séni man gisuma maram si néeg bi te néeg yëpp gis naa fa deret kaay leen dimbali ma ut maram ma anti ndey moom mooy liggéey ak yaayam mu ngi lii fële ma ne ko anti ndey mu ne ma naam lu xew ma ne ko kaay gisuma maram si néeg bi te gis naa néeg bi yëpp deret kaay leen dimbali ma ñoom balaa ñuy egsi man daw naa dugga waati si néeg bi ma dellu seetaat néegi yaayam seet si wanag ma ne xëj na dafa daanu ci wanag bi ma dugga seet néegi wanag bi gisuma ma delluwaat néegi rakam gisuma noonu laa ñëwee ma daaji buntaam bi puus ko bunta bi dëgg ma puusaat bunta bi daajeeku dem benn boor ma ne ko mam boy bi ma àndal yàlla def bi ma dugga si am na boy bi ñëw ne la ak seykul boy bi bi mu ñëwee ma ne ko kaay dimbali ma ñu ne deret mi ci biir néeg bi te ki fa nekk man gisuma ko kaay dimbali ma maa ngi boot ñeme ñu maa aaga si biir a biir parce que maa ngi amee xale kaay dimbali ma ñun ñaar ñu dugga nuñ jugee noonu boy bi tam seet mu ne ma xay nang mu ne mi ngi ne la ci soose mi ngi tëdda fële pare ko tëdda fan ma daw fekk ko fi mu tëdda ma oo ko maram ma gis boppa baa ngee génnee deret loxo baa ngee génnee deret ma oote maram ma daw oo ndimbal kaay leen dimbali ma noonu la kii ñëwee ñuy ñëw ma daw ma ne moto laay uti pour ñu ñëw dimbali ma ñu seet ndax mbéy mi ngay dund ñu ma ñu seet ko pare laa te oote ndigam maram dee na man xaw ma ko def lii waaw ma jaale ndaxte maram suma kër la dee endu man maa ngi fa ak xale yi maram foofu la moo nekka maram bu gut ma dóor maram mu mer lu ma def ne ko dee def mu ne ma li ma mujjee wax moom mu ne ma lan mooy sa Africell nomba bi ma ne ko suma Africell bi dafay yaaxu loolu ma nekk suma kaaju bu mu den teel maanaam
Amadou yaa ko dégg noonu kooku mooy ku nga xam ne ni dëkkandooram la waaye ku ko xaritam la ku ko jege woon la koo xam ne ni téye woon doomam yi comme nga xam ne moom mooy lu nekk
waaw dafa mel ni comme ni ngeen ko gisee noonu waaw métti na tiis na waaw du ñàkkaat ñu dellusiwaat foofu ci ñang léegi rek mu jékkali mon ñang ñu bàyyi la nga continuer.
su waxee ku nga xam ne ni kenn la koo xam ne ni ku jegewante woon ak moom la koo xam ne ni seen relationship façon na bu baax a baax te yàlla def itam moom mooy ku nga xam ne bu lii xew-xew bi amee mooy ku nga xam ne moo fi njëkka because doomam dafa doon war a ñëw pour maram létt ko soo si la gis ne deret am na si saal bi ki nga nu mu ko expliqué Amadou dëkkandoor yi métti lu neen lii bu baax a baax accident bi mu nekk lu nga xam ne ni lu daw yaram la te ñu bari ñi ngay wax ne lii nag fu mu nekk ni jot na pour mu dakka soo fi ñëwee loolu mooy waxantu li askan bi di waxantu mooy ne war leen xam lan moo nekk di sabab lii rey métti yi nga xam ne mu ngi am si biir dëkk bi rey yi nga xam ne da laa fekk sa biir kër ko bu njëkk dañ ne woon ne dañ la xëy reyante wala ñu ne dajee neen si mbedd bi ñu reyante ba léegi si sa biiri kër lañ laa fekk rey la wala sa biiri nekk rey la te loolu nekk na lu nga xam ne ni lu doy waar la lan moo sabab lii lan moo nekk si gannaaw li askan mi ñi ngay laajte loolu dafa war a leer pour nit ñi xam rey gu xaaral yu métti yi lan moo lii sabab bi soo loolu nag nekk na si lu nga xam ne askan bi joxe nañ correction boobu pour ñu gis ne loolu war leen ku am investigateur bu nga war na si am ñi xam lan moo ko waral because métti na métti gu nga xam ne ni métti gu doy waar la because nu mu day xewee ku nekk xam na naka la day xewee dafa doy waar trop moo tax dëkkandoori fii métti lu neen ko because ñu bëri ñi ngay wax ne kooku di Mariama Jaw ñoom ñu ko ooyee Maram ku seen dëkkandoor bu ku baax la woon koo xam ne amoon na relation ak ñoom parce que soo fi ñëwee kenn mënut a wax yow ñaari baat te jooyut te loolu mu ngi laa won ne rek amoon neen jàmm ak moom te ku xam ne ni la ku doon sàmm xale nit ñi nga xam ne ñu dëkkal di wax ne xale yi da leen téye leen di as pour nan war a téye seen njaboot tey moom dogal bi la yàlla indi si koom muy lu nga xam ne amul métti na te dëkkandoor yi méttul ne ko mbokk yi itam méttul ne quoi.
dëgg la métti na lool te sa waxtaan bi nga am ak xarit boobu ak ki nga xamante ne jege woon na ko wane na ko xol bi fees tooy na lool te tamit nekk na lu tiis comme ni nga ko waxee fu mu nekk nii ndax xam nañ maram li nga xamante ne mooy niw bi fan la nekk ndax tamit ñu ngi yëg ne fu mu nekk nii commencé nañu pour gestu xam yëf yi naka la demee pour mu gën a mun a leer parce que yaa ngi wax ne tamit ñu bari ñu ngi wax ne li war naa mun a dàq léegi ci réew mi parce que mu ngi gën a bari ndax loolu jot ngeen xam fu mu nekk nii foofu ban taxawaay lañ ci am ci loolu.
waaw léegi after bu liy xewee Banjul police station ñoom ñoo ñëw jël dead body bi yóbbu ko then mu ngi si xam naa yóbbu leen ko si lopitaan bi ñoom ñu ngi handul case bi xam naa ñu ngi def seen gëstu seet li nga xam ne lan moo waral lii waaw.
ok pour tënk pour ñu bala ñu bàyyi leen pour rek ñu waxati ci pour kilifa yi ñu taxaw ci taxawaay pour yokk li nga xamante ne mooy kaaraange nit ñi ñu bari ñu ngi ko doy joytu ci réew mi li war naa mun a dàq ci réew mi lan nga jàpp ne lan lañ ci mun a jàngee en tant que réew surtout kilifa yi ñu mun a taxaw bu baax tamit nit ñi seen mun a dal bu baax a baax seen nekkin ci réew mi jamono ji ñu bari ñu ngi yex bi ci yëf yi nu moo demee ñu bari am nañ ci tiitaange.
jërëjëf Amadou dinañ ñëw si loolu waaye balaa loolu ñu waxtaan ak ki nga xam ne mooy yaay Mariama.
ok
moom tam mu waxal ñi nga la jàpp ne ak moom.
jërëjëf waaw.
yaa njëree naka la xibaar bi ñëwee si.
man daa dama demoon liggéeyi foofu lañ ma koolee ñu kool ma ne ma am na emergency sa kër may leen lu xew su ma nee woy kenn parewut pour wax ma dara ñu ne ma ñëwaat rek so bi ma ñëw fekkat suma néeg bi yëpp fees police yaa ngi fi ni fii yëpp a ngi fees may leen lu xew ñu ne ma dañ rey sa doom bi ma ne rey mu ne waaw nii laa si em ma duga ñu ne ma xaaralagum police yaa ngay def seen liggéey after si lañ ma ne kaay ñëw xool sa doom si laa xam ne dëgg la dañ rey suma doom waaw nii laa ci em waaw.
yow bi nga xëy fii nga ko bàyyi.
fii laa ko bàyyi te kool na ma boori 12 yooyu mu ne ma sooy ñëw te du ma dem bi jëndaa ne ñu def omelette parce que ëllëg julli la waaw ma ne ko waa amul problème bi ma ñëw loolu yëpp laa jëndaale ma ñëw fekka niw bu tëdda waaw. ah amoon na benn waaye fii électricien la moo ma doon liggéeyal fii suma sola bi soo bi mu liggéeyee dama doon rénover suma néeg bi ñu muuf sola bi mu ne sola bi dafa lakka soo mu jël sola bi yóbbu ko mu ne daf koo dem defar soo su ma ko laajee ana sola bi te ëllëg la soo ma ko léegi delloo suma xaalis ma butuma sola bi suma doom tamit daf dee business di dem Sénégal di indi ay bagages indi ay yére mu leb ko dégg nga yooyu yëpp mun si saa yi nekka dina ma kool dinaa ñëw fay la ma fayaale Mariam ma ne ko waaw baax na de ma maan si liggéeykaay bi rek mu kool ma moom waa ji mu ne ma indi naa sa xaalis bi dama tasee sa doom bi mu ngi doon dem si seen fridge bi si yoon bi laa tasee moom jox naa ko 10,000 sa xaalis bi moom sa fayaale naa ko ma ne ko ah mu ne ma waaw ma ne ko waaw baax na soo ma jógee foofu duga moto witaaw 30 minutes rek kool si di duga si ñu ma kat am na lu xew sa kër am na lu xew sa kër lu xew kenn mënu maa wax ma egsi rek ma gis ni boy bi police téye nañ ko waaw police téye nañ ko mu ngi si onda police fi mu nekk nii waaw.
kooku lañ ñaaw njort ne moo def lii.
waaw moom lañ ñaaw njorta daal parce que daf dee ñëw fii miin nañ ko so bi lii xappu ne am na ñoo xam ne xam nañ ko ñu ne ko ah yow sa waa kër yi ñu ngi am problème di yow demuloo foofu noonu so mu start nag di lox foofu la gars yi suspecté ne xam na si affaire bi dara rek ñu alarm police yi fii lañ ko téye mu ngi doon round fii nii si def na li moom laa xelaat daal ne moo ko war a def waaw parce que moo ñu xam waaw loolu laa xelaat waaw.
lan nga ñëw wax si Maram.
Maram xale bu baax la xale bu ma déggal la amul kirib karab du duga du génn mu ngi ci soxlaam rek su nekkul fii gis nga waa ji taxaw mu ngi këram moo jabaram ñun sax léegi-léeg bu ngoonee foofu lañ dee dem comme su ma wàccee nii Maram amut a kenn problème Maram amut a kenn bu demee business am trip bu ñëwee leble to su demee fayeeku ni sax mu layal ko daf dee ñëw mu ne ah gars yi fay ma xam naa ne affaire yi julli bi la ma ne ko fi mu nekk nii dafa xaat foog nga muñal gars yi Maram amul benn problème doo ne góor a ko fekka si amul taay mi góor amul taay mi dara waaw mu ngi si waxtu julleem bi mu ngi toog fii em lu mu am doyloo na ko waaw.
Amadou.
waaw.
ok mu mel ni kooku ku mooy yaay Mariam moom tam xol bi fees na because nu ko dëkkandoor waxee rek moom itam noonu la ko doon joxe seede boobu si ki nga xam ne mooy Maram xale la bu nga xam ne ni moom balaam ko wax ñi nga xam ne ñooy dëkk wax ne xale bu yéen ku respecté woon liggéeyam la ku joxoon nit ñi cër la te nag comme ni ko nit ñi di waxee rek buñ ne diw baax na rek dañuy wax ndax mbokk yi ñoo ko wax dëkkandoor yi nag ñooy mbokkam ak moom tam wax na ko soo am mu nekk li nga xam ne xibaar bu tiis la da nga comme ni ko maire bi waxee am na ku nga xam ne ni ñaaw nañ njort si moom ne moom moo def lii bi ñaaw gi ba mu ngi ko police so su fu nekk ni mu ngi si under investigation so li si des nag fokk ñuy bàyyi loolu ak loi mu dox ak moom bañ xam fan la wananti di mujjee ak i gëtam waaye Amadou xibaar bi daal mooy lu nga xam ne ni moo fi xew muy lu doy waar te nag kenn du ne lii gan la si dëkk mu ngay xew sax ñu bëri duñ ko dee yëg ñu sax am na xam ne bi sax duñ ko si li nga xam mooy comité moo tax sànq correction bu boo laajte mooy bu am solo mooy ne taxawaay ak taxaw seetlu war nañ koo def si li nga xam ne mu ngi xew si biir réew mi muy rey gu métti guy xappun askan bi ñu ngay wax ne war nañ xam lii lu ko sabab war nañ xam lan moo nekk si gannaaw lii war nañ see jóg ba gis ne nag lii dakk na te lii nag warugalu képp ku nekk la gis ne lii dakk na kenn ku nekk si sa police yi boppa ñi seet am taxawaay seetlu seet lii lan moo ko nekk di waral bu ko defee ñëpp nekk si gannaaw kilifa yi ñi def investigation topp si gannaaw li parce que lii métti na Amadou si yoon leen doon yaakaaree du ma la ko waxee nga ñëw ñi rey la wala ñu xeex nga reyante wala si nangam waaye léegi nii ñëw rey la loolu Amadou nekk na lu nga xam ne ni lu doy waar la soo loolu war nañ see mun a jàngataat amaat si jàngat bu nga xam ne jàngat bu xóot la war a nekk waaye nag ñëpp si war a jàppa responsabilité ñëpp la pour ñu gis ne li leen nii dakk na te nekk na lu nga xam ne lu doy waar la Amadou.
jërëjëf ñu gërëm la bu baax ci taxawaay bi am na solo xam naa ne wax nga ko incha allah waxtaan bi nañ ko mun a yaatal jàngat war na cee mun a am taxaw seetlu tamit surtout ci côté wala ci wàllum kilifa yi day am solo ñu def ci bu baax ñu xam lan moo nekk ci gannaaw lu mel nii wax nga ko léegi nit mun nañ tase ak moom ci mbedd wala ci ay yeneen béréb daanu ci ko am rey ko waaye léegi ci biir këram waatuma sax si biir néegam ñu fekk ko rey mu loolu nekk na ay mbir yu doy waar ñu gërëm la bu baax ak team bi nga àndal foofu ci Lamin Kerewan tamit ñuy seetaan gis nañ yëfi nu mu demee incha allah xam naa ci yeneen jamono nañ ko mun a yaatal def ci jàngat bu yaatu jërëjëf su ko defee ñu continuer way ak yéen we will move on from that unfortunate development there from Lamin Kerewan and we will pray for the departed soul to rest in eternal peace. It's really a very difficult time for the family and of course for the relatives as well, and we extend our condolences to the family, as you heard from the mom and the close relatives as well from the late Mariam there. So we'll move on to our next story, because as Nurses Week is observed internationally in recognition their work. iAfrica TV engaged an award-winning nurse at the Bundun Maternal and Child Health Hospital. Mary Barnes Gomez, a midwife and head of the Reproductive and Child Health Unit, expressed her feelings for recognizing their work in the Gambia. Amin Dao has more of that in this report.
To appreciate the nurses around you. The Nurse Week was observed from 11 to 16 October in celebration of Florence Nightingale, the founder of modern nursing. In January 1974, the International Council of Nurses proclaimed that May 12 would be International Nurse Day as it marks the birthday of Florence. An award-winning nurse, Mary Barnes Gomez, highlighted the role of nurses in the society.
Gambia needs to celebrate the nurses. We form the majority of the healthcare workforce. We form the majority. You come in the morning, in the afternoon, in the night, you meet a nurse on the ground who's able to help. And Gambia cannot but celebrate the nurses. We have doctors that are doing amazing things, but prior to even having a medical school, it's the nurses that have been upholding our health sector. So they cannot be ignored. They should not be ignored. They should be recognized for the services they are rendering. Even in the remotest place, you would find a nurse serving there. We are happy that people are seeing the little things that we are doing to make a difference. And it's also a challenge to continue doing what we are doing, or look at areas we are not doing well in and work towards improving those.
Mary also outlined the ratio of health professionals per certain number of population in the Gambia.
I read a couple of days ago a study that was conducted by some students from Harvard on the maternal mortality issue. Yes, so and they identified that the ratio of health professionals to per 10,000 population, according to WHO, should be 23 health professionals per 10,000 population. It will shock you to know that in Gambia, it's 8.3 per 10,000. So the gap is huge. So you have a very skeletal staff doing the work that many other people should be doing, yet they are not paid for those extra things that they do.
However, Madam Gomez expressed her feelings on her recent award on midwifery services in the country from the United Nations Population Fund.
It was a surprise. It's nothing I saw coming. UNFPA came and they awarded me for outstanding midwifery services in the country. I am very grateful to God Almighty and also to everyone that is behind the awards. I would like to encourage every nurse to hold on. It's a tough battle. It's a tough fight, especially for those of us living in this part of the world where we are resource constrained.
The theme for Nurses Week 2021 is Frontline Warriors, as nurses and other medical workers continue to work on the front line of the pandemic, providing support to millions of patients. Healthcare workers have always been incredibly valuable, although not always fully appreciated, but never has that been more so than the past year as the world battles a global pandemic. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amin Dao.
Well, it is always nice and good to be recognized in your efforts, and I think we say congratulations to the nurses, of course, in their recognition. During the Nurses Week celebration, of course, internationally or globally, I should say. So that's, I think, which is worth celebrating, and they have been doing well. I think that's why their effort has been recognized, and we will move on now quickly from that, because we should be having our guest in the studio in a moment, so we can discuss, as always we do, on the other matters. But before we do that, let's bring on another story. Now, the Gambia Timber Association has on Saturday distributed food items among its members ahead of the 2021 Quality celebration. Now, since its formation in 2021, the association has been providing support to its members and the general public during the festive period. And here's more details of that in this report.
The presented food items are expected to support the beneficiaries during the Quality celebrations amidst the global economic challenges. Among the distributed food items were bags of rice, cooking oil, meant to assist in them during this period. Speaking at the presentation ceremony, the chairman of the association, Lamin Barrow, commended the members for their show of solidarity during the time in need. Mr. Barrow also highlighted the challenges members of his association have been going through since government stopped timber exports in 2019, while thanking them for believing in his leadership.
As the member of this association are going many difficulties since the closure of the Farato export, I think 2019 if I'm right, we could say 99% of our members are not working accordingly. And based on that, we said, okay, we need to assist them in these two reasons. One, the commodity of the rise, the price of most of the commodity are increasing. And also, most of our members are sitting down from 2019 up to date. They are not working since the closure of the Farato export. And we know very well it's not easy to change your business from one business to another business. Because of this, most of our members are finding difficulties to change their business from timber to another one. But we thank God Almighty Allah, and we thank them very much, especially those who are loyal to these associations and also listen to the advice of the committee.
The Timber Association chairman further reasserts the members of his continuous commitment to engage authorities with regards to their timber activities. According to him, despite the government ban, they are aware of the ongoing exports in the country.
We want to appeal to all of you. Listen to the Timber Association executive. We will try to do all our best to make sure that what is going on we know is all right, but don't associate yourself to those kind of malpractice. It doesn't tell well. I mean, you know very well, and I know, for last 2 seasons we work with this government. How much money we have pumped to the central bank? It's nothing below 400 million Gambian dollars for last 2 seasons. What we pumped to the central bank through these 2 seasons is nothing below 400 million dollars. Since the closure of the Farato, they issued a 2 permit in 2010, June. I have all the copy with me. Can they explain how much they pay the central bank? And from that date up to date, containers are going day by day.
In August 2019, the Gambia government declared a ban on timber exportation. However, the ban is yet to yield a positive outcome in addressing the timber trading concerns in the country. Mr. Barrow encouraged his members not to involve in any illegal timber business, while distancing his association from any illegal dealings since the Gambia government imposed a ban. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante.
This is Africa TV, and of course, it's the midweek edition of the Good Morning Africa program that you're with at this moment. And of course, we are moving on quickly from that report there on the Timber Association sharing some, food items with their members, but also, taking the advantage or the opportunity to discuss on their situation as far as their work, timber exportation or exports are concerned in the Gambia. The Gambia government, of course, imposed a ban since August 2019. So, but despite that, according to them, there are still some exports that have been done, or that is happening in this country. So that's it. Hopefully, we will also, discuss on that issue, that issue, of course, in our subsequent programs. But for now, we'll move on. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, of course, we're expecting a guest, and of course, he is already here. We're going to widen the discussion, as always we do. We're going to touch on very pertinent issue in the country, and of course, we would discuss on a matter that has been making headlines in the country over the past couple of weeks or days or so, and that is, of course, with regards to the National Assembly loan scheme. The Gambia's highest court, that is the Supreme Court, has made a ruling on that, saying the National Assembly decision to allocate themselves a loan of over $15 million was unconstitutional. But again, it's good to say, before we get to that decision, there were people that were behind that. They felt that the move taken by the National Assembly was not improper, and they thereby take a legal action against the NAMS, and then the Supreme Court acted upon it, and thereby saying the move was unconstitutional. I'm glad to say, joining me this morning to discuss more on that is Mar Nyang of Gambia Participate, and of course is an anti-corruption activist and founder of Gambia Participate. So we're very much happy to have him this morning to discuss more on that. su ko defee mbokk yi comme ni nga koy defee saa su ne ñu yaatal waxtaan bi suñ gan teew na ñu am fi Mar Ñam moom mi nga xamante ne moom moo jiite Gambia Participate te tamit di xeex li nga xamante ne mooy wàllum corruption activiste la ak yu mel noonu ñu war a waxtaan ci li nga xamante ne mooy di ma ko waxee ci décision bi nga xamante ne Supreme Court bi jël na ko ci bor bi nga xamante ne député yi bëgg nañ koo jël ci xaalis réew mi ñoom nag gannaaw loolu ñu taxaw gis ne loolu warut a am xeex bi ba tey ñu gis ne Supreme Court bi jël na ci dogal. Mar, good morning and thank you very much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We just like to say hi to our viewers.
Thank you very much, Amadu. Good to be on this platform again.
Yeah. All right, thank you. First, like I said, of course, we're talking about an issue or something that has been making the headlines, and of course, yourself, that is, of course, your that is the Gambia Participant as the head or the founder. Of course, also you partnered with another CEO, that is how would I say it? There's a Center for Research and Policy Development to file a legal challenge on the decision taken by the National Assembly on their move to allocate themselves a loan of more than 54 million, of course, $54 million. First, before we get to what led to your decision to get that to go that far, but first, how did you receive the news upon filing a complaint at the Supreme Court and they felt the move of the National Assembly was unconstitutional? How did you receive the news first?
Well, I received the news in a very satisfactory way because it gives hope for our democracy and then for hope for separation of powers. We've seen in the previous regime how there has been a monopoly in terms of the two arms of government. Yeah. So this is not actually being the case. And this case actually also says a lot about where our elected officials supposed to start. They have a legal mandate regarding the line that they should start the sprint and where to end the sprint. So if they go beyond the line, there is a constitutional provision that gives the citizens the power to actually petition those actions. And for many years, the Gambia have not been using those constitutional mandates. Yeah. And for us, the civil society, if I can put it this way, the civil society fraternity is just opening in this new dispensation.
A new chapter.
Yes, new chapter, yes, right? So the civil society is still learning, and as a result, we've not been using our courts as a tool to make sure there is government accountability. We've been protesting, we've been demanding actions, but it is subjected to political will. And this political will, actually government and government officials look at it if it actually favors their interest or it is against it. Unless if there is popular demand from the citizen, then they actually take those actions. So this, we believe, should not be the case. And whereas we elect officials that are supposed to make law for us, but end up breaking the laws that are being made. And those laws that are already being made, those elected officials, especially legislators that are supposed to legislate laws, supposed to inform us, the citizens, about those laws, go into constituency and then telling us, make us know about those laws. But also when we put them there to make laws on our behalf for the best interest of the country and the future of our democracy, we believe they should do just that, but not to violate any law for their own interest.
But the Supreme Court declaring that they have break the law, what message or signal is those, are they sending to the Gambian people or to the world?
That there is a rule book that governs everyone in this country, and there is no institution or individual that is above that rule book. And this is the message. When you violate that rule book, there has to be accountability. And the accountability step is what we have taken to not only for the National Assembly. I think this is what people misconstrue. This action is not only for the parliament, because the one that we took to court, the first defendant is the National Assembly, but you have the Minister of Finance and the Accountant General and the Auditor General also someone as defendants, right? So it is the two arms of government, because these two actions actually are interrelated. The National Assembly make a decision and the executive complement
Yeah.
their action
Yeah.
by accepting,
Yeah.
the action, which is unlawful. So we believe this we should not actually accept in our democracy anymore. Anytime our laws are being violated, we should make sure there is accountability, and then keep taking these strategic litigations as the way forward to make sure that the interest of this country is safeguarded beyond personal interests.
Very well. Now, when the National Assembly request was approved at their own level, of course, it sparked a lot of talk in the country. There were divided opinion as to whether it was the right move at the right time for the National Assembly to request such an amount of money, considering the state of our economy, considering the state of the situation that we find ourselves in. At that moment, what came to your mind? What triggered your move to felt that you need to go that far beyond, beyond the level we used to see? Of course, CEOs do, that you need to go to the cost to challenge the decision.
Yeah, I mean, morally, if we talk at the moral perspective, when they actually made that move in a very tight and crazy situation that the country and the whole world is actually encountering, the first thing that we did, right, was to come up with an analysis how that 54.4 million could have been used. And then the analysis that we gave is that at least 380,000 Gambians could have benefited from the 54.4 million. How were they going to benefit from it? And then we explained this, that the 31 million can actually be used to build 40 boreholes distributed in the 4 regions of the Gambia, whereas at least 300,000 inhabitants of those parliamentarians are going to benefit from. And then at least 22 million or 23 million dollars could have been used to build 4 standard health posts, 20 million for the whole 4 standard health posts, and the 3 million could have been used to furnish those standard health posts. And at least 80,000 Gambians could have been benefited from this in 4 villages. So this was the analysis that we put them. Look, this is what you should have been thinking of. This is what you should have been doing for the people that put you in there, right? If you're talking about you need money to build your house and the likes, I don't have any problem with that, right? But then do the right thing. You understand? And then doing the right thing when the parliamentarians complain that they are the least paid. I totally understand that. But when you are least paid, you're getting loan. When you're on credit, you're always having a burden that you need to pay back.
Absolutely.
And then as a result of that, you are not also setting the foundation for the upcoming parliamentarians. So which means we will have parliamentarians that will keep taking loan. The primary objective of this parliament, in order to make sure they are well paid, is to make sure they take the right procedures to make sure they are well paid. And then as a result, they will not have the mind of taking a loan. If you want to take a loan, then that will be personal. You understand? So I believe this money, the citizens needed it the most than these parliamentarians that the citizens actually elected. And most of these parliamentarians that accepted this loan, their constituents are riding on donkey cart to go to the nearest hospital.
Absolutely.
Their constituents are waiting for at least one in a month to be diagnosed. Their constituents are lacking water that some of the time they have to queue at 3 a.m. waiting for the pump to be opened. But they blindsided all that and then look at their own pocket.
Self-centered, one may say.
That is it. I mean, and the constitution says that the parliament should not use, parliamentarians should not use the parliament for their to self-enrich themselves. Any action that they should take, it should be in the best interest of the people. And this action, morally, it is not to the best interest of the people. Constitutionally, it is a violation of the Constitution, especially Section 152.
How confident were you after taking a legal action?
Well, I'm confident because I believe the Supreme Court has been more independent compared to the previous regime, where the bench was controlled by the executive. And we've seen rulings that have been made in favor and against the government. And then as a result, I know when we talk, it's not going to change anything. The parliamentarians or the government will still go ahead with what they have planned. And this is a law that they have made. It is already enacted in the 2021 estimates, right? There has been a lot of increment in the budget of the parliament. They have increased their committee sittings from 7 million to 10 million. We didn't question that. We believe it is something that they should do. They've increased their trainings from 1.5 million to 3.5 million. We didn't question that. Almost 35 million increment in their budget. We did not question that. What we questioned was the 54.4 million. So if they see this as a problem, then it's a problem for themselves and not the parliament as an institution. Because all the other increment we did not question because we believe it is something that should be added. You understand? But if they see the problem, whereas the 54.4 million is being challenged, then you get to see this has to do more with a personal pocket than that of an institution.
All right. Just to say, of course, as well as you know, if you are keen follow this program, sometimes we do Jahas Bahas di Watan, also including the local language. But before we do that, Mar, again, I would just ask this. I mean, you know, like I said, at the public domain, when the decision was made, it sparked a lot of, dissenting views was out there. But then again, at that time, you felt you needed to challenge this court through the channel that is at the courts. What amount of work have you done to get to the Supreme Court to design that the move was unconstitutional, you know, at the tail end of their ruling?
Yeah, first we look at the constitution, and then I spoke with my fellow activist, Syed Matijau from the Center for Research and Policy Development. We had this conversation regarding what the parliament has done and how it has violated the constitution and the process of the budget budget allocations. I'm a budget research, and I get to know how the budget is supposed to be prepared, how parliament should play oversight role. The key word here is oversight role, and how it should be enacted by the parliament after it has been assented by the president. So we look at the process, and then we realized there was an issue. So we took it to a lawyer, Hawa Sise Sabali, who did a very good research on this and was confident that this is not right. And she actually put a lot of work in the research, looking at both the standing orders of the parliament and then that of the constitution, the supreme document or the supreme rule book of this country, and realized that what the parliament did is actually beyond their mandate. It is the mandate of the executive to prepare a budget estimate. The constitution says it. The president shall tax the minister responsible for finance to prepare the estimates and revenue for the upcoming year. And that's what the executive did and took it to parliament. Now the constitution also says the parliament has 14 days to give consideration to those estimates. And in those in the same constitution, it mentions that the parliament's consideration should, if it is done within 14 days, it should be taken to it should be taken back. Then there is approval from when they look at it and then they approve it. Then the president will assent to it, and then it becomes a law. But during the consideration phase of the budget, what the parliament has did, they've made a lot of increment and also make some savings, and then also decrease. Like for example, the office of the president's budget was decreased. And then you also look at the judiciary, their budget also has been decreased. You look at the parliament, from 146 million to 246 million increased. You understand? But what they do not, with the power that they don't have to do, is to create or insert a budget item. And the way I see this process, they actually forcefully inserted this 54.4 million. How? At the committee stage that are supposed to look at the budget, no, I'm taking your time, let me just run up.
No, it's okay.
At the committee stage, where they actually consider, review the budget and then prepare their report, this 54.4 million was never reported. They make the savings and reallocations, adding here and decreasing here, and then making some savings. So when it went to the plenary, that is when one parliamentarian said they needed this money, and they have the power to do it. So that is where they misconstrued.
They defended their position.
They defended, and they, emphasized that they have the power to do it. And that is not their power. And they moved a motion, they voted, some accepted, some
say no.
Yes. And then it was another motion passed to rescind their decision. A slim majority accepted. So this is where they actually misconstrued. But I think, to run up, what Parliament should learn from this decision, I've seen some reactions from both parliamentarians and staff of the parliament. They actually should have seen this as an opportunity to strengthen the institution of the National Assembly. Strengthening it in a way that they are going to be having the opportunity to look at where the gaps are that they need to fill. This is a transitional government, and I will put it that way, right? This parliament is supposed to be the one that should fix it. And they should look at beyond their mandate. Most of them are not going to be re-elected at the end of the day, right? So they actually should work towards establishing a legacy for the future parliamentarians by making sure there is a strong legislature. And that is not the case if you actually put your personal interest above the interest of the people and that of the institution. So this is something that they need to learn from.
All right, interesting. Considering or just listening to what you have just said and the analogy that you have given to us to the process that has been taken by the National Assembly to get to the level they have gotten to make sure their demands were approved for the request. Now, do you think this move in a way would taint the National Assembly or some of those that have approved the money for their own, interest, one could say, that looking at the bigger picture of the people that they are representing? I mean, do you think they could be categorized or described as people who are more self-centered than looking at the interests of their people they are representing? You have highlighted some of the challenges or the concerns or the concerns that their people are going through at their own constituencies.
Well, I think the people, the constituents or citizens of the Gambia have already started categorizing few parliamentarians as self-centered. And I will give you one example. During the constitutional debate, we had some parliamentarians saying, if we vote for this constitution, our salary or my salary is going to be cut short for 4 months because there was going to be presidential elections and parliamentary elections in December when the parliamentary election was supposed to come in April. So they were saying my salary is going to be cut for 4 months.
4 months.
Meaning there's no sacrifice for the people. And this constitution was actually supposed to be here for the longest time. But it was about my pocket. And as a result, many have seen these as parliamentarians that are supposed to be there for the interest of the nation, but there for their interest. And this loan as well, right, has also been one of the things that the people will never forget. Hadn't been, they have accepted it, right? And I believe parliament should not see just because the executive is taking loan that, they should also take loan. My take is the parliament should look at ways to make sure that they are well remunerated, right? When you are well remunerated, you don't have the thinking of any loan that you want to take will now become personal. But because you are paid a small amount of money, doesn't mean that I should find a way to take the money of the people and then start paying it back. What I will do is to look at how do I make sure the staffs and members of the parliament increase their salary that is fair to ensure that they work independently and effectively and efficiently without thinking of I need to cut the money of the taxpayers and put it in my money, in my pocket to build houses.
All right, very interesting. Again, well, we would of course move on. But before we do, like you said, reactions have been happening, and of course, interestingly, yesterday it was reported in the Standard newspaper that the Assembly officer, one of them, disagreed with the Supreme Court, ruling or loan scheme or whatever on the decision, and he went on to say in the story that the Supreme Court judgment on the 54 million for the National Assembly. Now, that is of course. This is Khalifa Mbaye reacting to the decision. And, speaking to the Standard, he said there is no evidence suggesting that the National Assembly create a budget line. So this is how do you react to this? Mar, this is also another thing. I mean, he seems the Supreme Court doesn't understand, or there's no evidence per se.
I think the article is falsely misleading and deceiving. If you say there is no evidence to prove that the National Assembly did not create a budget line item, it is his right to defend himself or to disagree with the Supreme Court. But to say there is no piece of evidence to suggest that the National Assembly created a budget line item is false and it's really misleading. And we don't actually expect that to come from a National Assembly, especially a staff responsible for the administration, right? The evidence is when the budget was tabled, you have what we call executive budget proposal 2021, right? But it is put in the document estimates of revenue and expenditure draft copy that is taken to Parliament. If you go under the budget of the Parliament, there is no budget line item that is saying 54.4 million. That is number one evidence, right? Number two, when the budget was being reviewed and being approved by parliamentarians, right? The debate of inserting the 54.4 million came from a parliamentarian and the information are there, the videos are there, saying they have the power to make, to create a budget line item for themselves in the form of a loan scheme. And they voted to insert that loan scheme. And the Minister of Finance went back, bring in a revised copy, and there is the 54.4 million, and it got approved. So you make the comparative analysis between these two documents. You get to see the evidences in written, and then also in the public domain, you get to see the videos of how this motion was passed to insert the budget. So first, that is really misleading. I think there is a lot of defense in terms of actions and interests than looking at the greater good. So I think the Gambia should really move past anything that has been done, come out and then defend. Look at the opportunities that are there, and then you work towards it. This is the Supreme Court of the country. And the ruling that they have made is just and to the best interest of the people.
Somebody might say there's no loser here. It's the Gambia that wins here.
Exactly. I mean, even the parliamentarians, if they have taken this money, really, it will have been catastrophic in the first place, morally, morally speaking, right? And, you know, this also, as I said earlier on, it's an opportunity for Parliament to look at they have a gap. They have a huge gap that they need to fill, and they're still yet to fill it. Capacity-wise, they still have a gap. Understanding of procedures also, they've been there for 4 years, they should have known this better. So if parliamentarians don't actually understand the procedures and the laws of the country, then there is a problem. Then there is a need for us to make sure that the parliament have a legal unit in the parliament that will support the parliament in terms of reviewing laws, because most of them don't have a law background, like I don't have a strong law background. So if you don't have such, you're going to need an expert that's supposed to lead you through the process. And that's why we went to a lawyer. So we expected that they should look at that in putting a budget where they will have an established legal and research unit that will be there to support the parliament in terms of budget reviewing. You have budget experts that will make you look at what the executive has proposed and what you should consider, instead of just a small number of parliament that have financial background to be looking at it. So I think this is one of the things that they need to look at and start putting in the budget.
All right, so there you go, and we will probably also, you know, try to get the National Assembly. Why? Probably Halifa himself. Why not? If he is ready, we will try to get him and we discuss, so he can tell us why he think there were no evidence as to what you know, the Supreme Court have said or have ruled. Yeah, this is one of the steps that you have taken, and of course yielded result, and Gambians may expect more from the CEOs, the civil society organization. And like I said at the beginning, you are, of course, an anti-corruption activist also. And at some level, people would tell you that there's rampant corruption in this country. One may ask what position, what action are you going to do also in that aspect? I know you have been very much vocal on you know, regards to corruption issues in this country, and you have been advocating for something to, you know, actions to be taken and all that. But what could we expect from your, you know, organization, and of course with other CSOs also, to make sure that you keep up the pace as we have just started?
Yeah, definitely. I think we are working towards making sure that civil society, not only Gambia participate, is not taken for granted. The civil society becomes stronger than it was before, and then make sure we activate accountability measures, both for not only the legislature, but that of the executive to safeguard the welfare of the country.
Sorry for cutting. It's good that you said that, because sometimes people will say Gambian activists sometimes are selective, or they are not proactive. Sometimes you only hear them on certain issues, and sometimes, you know, they are not heard on some of the other issues that also matters for the Gambians. So I think, like you said, it's high time that, you know, I think the civil society organizations also, you know, need to be more active on their actions and things that they do in the country.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to admit that there are also gaps within the civil society. We have a lot that we need to fill to make sure that we are stronger and strategic in the way we advocate things. You know, and be more proactive.
Yeah, I compare, sometimes I look at, you know, activists in Senegal, for example, the way they act, the role they play in the interest of their people, and sometimes challenging authority to make sure that, you know, the interest of Gambians or their people are, you know, are put before any other interest. Sometimes you compare it to Gambia, you see a huge difference and a huge gap.
Definitely. I think, like I said, the civil society space is young, and we are still learning. There's a lot of gaps we need to fill in with. And like you said, you know, sometimes it's also disheartening when you see group of individuals, civil society, come out to advocate for the interest of the nation, and then you have another group of people saying, not in my name. That brings two camps between the civil society. So there is lack of that unity, speaking with one voice. And that affects a lot. And that also is something that we can learn from Nigeria. When they say end SARS, they went out and they ended SARS. When they say not too young to run, they went out and then make sure a not too young to run bill was passed, even though it was not the will of the politicians. It became law, and then young people are now running for office, and some are already elected in the office. So that is what we wanted to see, or that's what we're moving to see in the Gambia. Instead of having two divided camps, I do this, said, I can see in your newspaper, we have 5 years, and then you have 3 years. You understand? You have Occupy Westfield, advocating for the interest of the nation, not in my name. You understand? So these are some of the things that we need to start, you know, changing, you know, make sure the civil society speaks with one voice, instead of when we say something else and then someone else from outside, maybe personal or political motivation that move them towards making sure that they actually make that move foolish. So the civil society space is young, but we need to work faster and be ahead of these politicians, because these politicians always find a way to bury the bad news in the Gambia. I will give you an example. When there is a bad news and we are complaining of one thing, it goes on social media, we talk about it, in a week or two, it died out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will be the end of it.
Exactly.
For example, the drug case, for example, and other issues also that have been happening here. You talk about, I mean, how would I call this, the passport scandal and other issues. It was just a matter of week or so, and everything is off of
definitely. And we need to have a civil side that will be following up on this. You have the seamless contract. You have the like you said, the drug scandal. You have the embassy scandal. You have the fisheries scandal, and you name them. You have
the honorarium.
Exactly. The justice and the bad thing is, like you see in this newspaper, the government always comes out and defend something that is wrong, right? What is wrong, there is no right that can make it right. It's wrong, it's wrong. Let's move past towards making sure we correct it. So the civil society, we should not only talk and government comes out and apologize and does it. The apology is good, but we need concrete actions that will remedy the situation. If not, it will just pave the way for corruption to reoccur. And I keep saying, right? Corruption is thriving in this country because we have the weak democratic institution, and I can put it this way, because there is political will to support corrupt acts. Because the evidence is, when there is corrupt acts, the government defends it, or the government does not take any accountability measures. The accountability measures that they take is, we are investigating this matter, or we are putting the person on administrative leave. We've deployed the person to foreign service. Is that accountability? No. That's actually a motivation for the person to continue doing or continue plundering the wealth of taxpayers. So I believe now the civil society, we should not take that for granted. And your colleagues in the media as well did a lot of investigation, compelling reports, compelling evidence out there, no action. Where are all these reports, these investigating reports that have been taken? We didn't see anything, right? If it is against the government, that's why we needed the Anti-Corruption Commission, for God's sake, right? And who was supposed to make sure we have this? Is the Parliament. The bill is there already with the Parliament. But you know, we're looking at more about how do we fill our pocket than making sure we build these democratic institutions to make, to just run this up. This country, you know, it's sad that we are in this stage. And the reason why we are in this stage is because of this government has now been turned to a private corporate institution, whereby monies that are being generated from taxpayers and our bilateral and multilateral partners is siphoned and it goes into the pocket of the public officials, and they become business mogul through taxpayers' money. And then we are the least developed countries, for God's sake.
Absolutely.
You understand? Our people are dying in labor. it's sad. I don't want to be emotional. It's sad that
I
we're
know,
here,
I know.
and the parliament, for God's sake, is supposed to help us. That's the one thing that we put them there. Help us to transition from where we are before. But things are still continuing, and parliament should not emulate what the executive is doing.
Yeah.
Parliament should not be taking envelopes from the executive. Parliament should not be taking cars from the executive. They should put that in their budget, for God's sake, and then get their cars. You get this from the executive. We have this societal compromise whereby if someone do you a favor, you return back a favor.
Yeah.
It is the same thing that is happening. Look at the constitution. Those that are receiving this package from the president, we are saying the constitution is not fair to the president. One person. And they should see it beyond that person. And if the constitution is imperfect, there is a way as legislators that you can go and sit and look at the imperfections, work towards improving those imperfections. But no.
Okay.
So it's sad. So corruption in this country, underdevelopment in this country, we will never change. We will never change unless we eliminate that corrupt
I
act.
was gonna ask. I see how, how like you said, you don't want to be emotional on this, but then I see how you're so much concerned on the state of the country and the rampant corruption. People talk about the lack of development that people talk about and all that. But then again, it seems in some quarters, if you look at, it seems as a country or many of the people that talk would accept that there are deficiencies that as a country that we have. But after knowing this, it seems we don't know how to get ourselves out from the situation we are. Now, do you think with this situation and the concerns that you have just raised, I think this is going to be our last question, so time is definitely not on our side, we need to go, but just to wrap it up, do you think realistically there's a way out? We are in an election year, politicians, of course, everybody is focusing on how to get to State House again, barely 7 months to December. Do you think we could only start things better after December, or you think realistically there is a way out of this situation and the concerns that you have just highlighted?
There was a way out since December 2nd, 2016, right? And that way out was what Gambians wanted, right? Making sure you build democratic institutions, making sure you change the draconian laws, making sure that corruption does not thrive, making sure there are accountability when people personalize the institution or the wealth of the country. And that way out that we were looking for, some have been achieved, especially at the judiciary level.
Yeah.
The judiciary independence is guaranteed, and then you don't have those bench that is being personalized by the executive by inserting foreign judges that will dance to your tunes. So there is still a way out post December 2000 or before December 2021, because this parliament can actually make so that the anti-corruption bill is legislated. They can make sure that access to information bill is legislated. They can make sure that other bills, and then the elections bill also is looked at thoroughly and legislated. And then talking about the elections bill, look, in the past years, we've seen how state resources have been used by politicians for campaign without accountability, which is against the Elections Act. But it goes with impunity because no one questions it. And then we've seen how politicians are going during the cooling of their buying votes. All these are prohibited in the Elections Act, but still there's practice of it, right? So there is a way. I think for me personally, in as much as there are challenges, I am optimistic that there is going to be change. But that change comes with sacrifice. It doesn't come with laziness. And that change also does not come when you wanted to look at your own personal pocket ahead of that of the interest of the citizens.
It's good that you just mentioned the election bill, and that would just lead me again. I said that was my final. But then, talking about elections, of course, we expect to see people like you, that is the civil society organization, to play a crucial role in this process. How did you see the electoral process as we are? You talk about the election bill is still at the level of the National Assembly also. Registration, voter registration is to kickstart at the end of, almost by the end of this month. And then you talk about the diaspora voting. There's a lot of talk around it also. Probably there's a high chance it may not be possible because the government said from the Ministry of Finance there's not money for that. Just in 1 minute, how did you what did you make of the process leading us to December presidential elections?
I think there has been a lot of delays in legislating that elections bill. I have been part of the group of civil society politicians and media that actually validated that bill in September to 2020. And we raised some queries regarding certain provisions in the elections bill, right? But it's unfortunate that anytime we validate a bill, it goes to the executive, and the executive make amendments and take it to parliament. So the copy that we have as civil society going to the communities and then tell them this is what we have validated, right? It's different from what is going to parliament. So that also compromises our effectiveness, our integrity, which I think the executive should not be doing. So I think these elections bills should be looked at thoroughly and not be politicized like they did with the constitution, right? They need to look at a level playing field and then make sure this elections bill, once legislated, is not only going to serve this elections calendar from 2021 to 2023. So I think they should work fast because there's been a lot of delays. The parliament should look at this strategically and then make sure the elements that are supposed to be amended, and then also take in the position of the civil society that we are working on presenting a paper to parliament to make sure they actually legislate a sound law that will govern the political space and then not give monopoly to an individual or a party.
All right, fantastic. And I think, I'm afraid we're going to have to end it there. We wish we have more time to continue discussion, because I would tell you, I find it interesting. I know many of you out there also probably would enjoy the discussion, because we're talking about some very pertinent issues with regards to the country and some of the things that many of the Gambians are concerned about. Mr. Nyang, thank you for coming. It was good to have you. Just allow you to say your final words to the Gambians, of course, after the giant step that you have taken to challenge the decision of the National Assembly, and what's next. Probably Gambians would ask from Gambia participate, and of course from other CSOs also, as we move on, especially heading into December.
Thank you, Amadou. I think as Gambians, half of a century, we've been having our wealth being personalized, and we're still stuck into this dark hole of underdevelopment, and we cannot actually have our elected officers to turn on the light for us to make sure that we move from that dark hole. And we've been putting a lot of sacrifice for these politicians. We rally behind them, we cook for them, our mothers cook for them, our youth run behind them, and then support them, hoping that there is going to be change. But at the end of the day, our mothers keep suffering, our youth get taking the back way, dying because of horrible conditions in this country. And I believe we should move past that. This December 2021 elections, it should be a massive eye-opener. Let us vote based on what concrete actions parties are going to take to salvage this desperate situation that we are in, to make sure our economy, which we have a strong leverage to make sure that we maximize our economy of this country and the living standards of the people. We need to look at those and not who is from my group or who is from my family. So that is one of the messages that I wanted to send to Gambians. Let politicians not take us for granted. They're going back to come to us and beg for votes to be elected. We need to give them our conditions. This is what we want you to do. If not, we are not going to give you our votes. Our vote is really priceless, and that's why they're coming to us begging day and night for us to give them a vote. In some situations, buying, which should not be the case. So we should wake up. We should really wake up.
So that's the message from Mar Nyang, of course, Mar Nyang, anti-corruption activist and founder of Gambia Participate. Thank you very much once again for coming. And I have to apologize for those that expect, I promised we are going to discuss in the local language as well, but of course we have been carried away. But I hope the message has, is clear and been heard, out there for all of you. Of course, we say happy Quarity in advance, and we say a very joyous one tomorrow. And of course, for those probably who also are doing their Quarity today, we say happy Quarity to you also. But we want to say thank you so very much, as always, for being there. It has been a long journey with you the whole month of Ramadan. Of course, once again, we have to say, we have to apologize for the mistakes and some of the things that we do. Probably we offended you one way or the other, but that's not the intention. It's the nature of the job, and of course we're bound to make mistakes as humans also. But on behalf of the entire team, our guest, we apologize and we so sorry and ndewenati. Jërë ngeen jëf mbokk yi, ñu jox leen dig daje inshallah amaana suba ñu dellusiwaat ci yeneen programme su dul jéemee sax waaye nañ ñëwaat ci yeneen ñu ànd ak ñu ngi baalu ñëpp di leen baalal di wax ne yàlla nañu yàlla boole jégal nangul ñu suñu jaam yi yëpp tamit ñu fekkee ko ay déwéni déwén ak tamit saliboo yi mooy loolu incha allah ñu